Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Special Collections Roadshow at Gettysburg College. Today we examine the Kepi, allegedly belonging to a member of the 37th New York Infantry Regiment, formed out of New York City at the start of the American Civil War in 1861. The Kepi itself, as you can see, is faded from sunlight, but most likely it would have been dyed a dark blue from indigo dye during the American Civil War. Now, the wearer was not only a soldier in the Union Army, but there is a likely chance that he was also a recently arrived Irishman. The 37th New York, sometimes called the Irish Rifles, was one of many ethnically organized regiments in the Union Army during the war. Now, this Kepi, as we've already established, is very faded from sunlight, and you can see some of the sunspots there on the hat itself. Allegedly, it was found hanging in a barn on a single nail. But beyond that, we don't really know the story of the Kepi itself. If you look on the inside, we don't have any maker's marks, no dates, no scribbled in names. So because of that, we can't really be quite sure the origins of this particular Kepi. The 37th New York, sometimes called the Irish Rifles, was one of many ethnically organized regiments in the Union Army during the war. With 2 companies of native-born Americans, the rest of the regiment itself was comprised of Irishmen. And though they were not part of the Irish Brigade itself, the 37th demonstrates that ethnically dominated regiments could exist outside of the mainstream understanding of cultural regiments. What did designate the 37th as an Irish regiment was the flying of its green silk flag, an element of extreme pride. Adopting and adopted to their new nation, they also carried the silk American flag at its side. During the American Civil War, it was very common for newly arrived immigrants to the United States to join in with ethnically organized regiments. Here we will briefly examine the immigrant contribution to the Union war effort. The question comes up, what is an American? What does it take to become an American? During the 19th century, to become an American or to be an American means to adopt and to believe in the ideals upon which the nation was founded. During the American Civil War era, to be an American also meant to fight and possibly to forfeit one's life for the same protection of those ideals. Others joined because of the promise of monetary stability. Joining in the Army promised stable pay, and for a newly arrived immigrant, stable pay was something that absolutely would have helped the immigrant make a new life in a new country. As the war continued, however, there is a definite moral shift for some immigrants and native-born individuals in the Union Army. For instance, as many native-born Union soldiers begin to adopt notions of fighting the moral war to end slavery, some immigrants took up that ideal as well. Irish immigrants coming from, in their perspective, a repressive situation under British rule and other complicated notions of nationalism, some Irish soldiers in the Union Army also saw that to throw off the yoke of slavery, a repressed people might rise from a lowly state. German immigrants serving in the Union Army, in particular, adopt the principles of the moral war to end slavery. Within the ranks of the Union Army were also English, Italians, Scots, Hungarians, French, Bavarians, Norwegians, and Swiss, among many others. With major ports turned immigration ports in the New York City area, it is understandable how such colorful and culturally diverse various New York regiments truly were formed. Through the participation of immigrants in the Union Army, the American public was told through publications like Harper's Weekly of the heroism of the immigrant population in uniform. They fought as the native-born men fought, advanced the colors, overtook enemy lines, and endured deadly hails of lead. What mattered was that there was a unified war effort to bring the American Civil War to a close. And each man, and a few women too, in blue contributed to that goal. With that, we see the 37th New York Kepi here, that much can be told about an artifact. However, even if we don't know the exact story of the artifact itself, there's a lot that we can tell about those who might have worn or come into daily use with artifacts such as the 37th New York Infantry, Kepi. Thank you so much for joining us today at Special Collections Roadshow at Gettysburg College. Be sure to tune in the future to check out some more of our items on display and find out what the stories are that make them so unique. Until then, do great work and keep up on your research.